Why is Mornye so broken exactly? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. I have been selling Mornye as this absolutely broken unit recently. What exactly is it that makes me so confident that she is really going to set herself apart from other characters in this meta, and that she is really going to stand as a truly amazing release? And while the answer is straightforward, there is still a little bit more to it. The straightforward answer being, you literally cannot go wrong with a second Shorekeeper. You just kind of can't. It is really hard to go wrong with a second Shorekeeper, in fact, because Shorekeeper on her own is already so strong a base that any character similar to her is guaranteed to have value. For example, Verena is another universal support. Her buffs are nowhere near as good as Shorekeeper's. However, because she still has great universal buffing, she still remains as a really solid third slot teammate to this day. Being a Shorekeeper alike, so to speak, is one of the best possible things that you can be. And it's not just about being a character that is like Shorekeeper, because I think from here on, Mornye is going to be an absolute meta staple, just like how Linny is already proving herself to be a meta staple. There's the obvious thing in regards to her being another Shorekeeper. That in of itself just already plants so much meta value into her veins, it is indescribable how good that makes her, just at a baseline. Genuinely, her pull value is already sky high, simply based on that alone. But I kind of want to focus more on Mornye's potential unique qualities here. She isn't officially out yet, so we don't actually know what her kit is going to be like. But we do have a healing set in the game right now that can tell us something, and we do have some knowledge on Mornye that can lead us in the direction of finding out why this unit is fundamentally broken. Because yes, the Shorekeeper thing is definitely one aspect of it, but there are also Mornye's own individual unique qualities that make me believe she is going to be really good going forward, and at least in the meta, she is going to be perhaps as good as Shorekeeper going forward, at least for new units. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One of those reasons being, there is currently a healing set in the game that just doesn't have a user right now. When healing a Resonator in the team, every 1% of off-tune build-up rate grants a 0.2% attack increase to all Resonators in the team for 4 seconds, up to 25%. There are two things that we can infer from this. One that is quite important, and the other thing, not so important, but it's still nice. To cover the thing that doesn't really matter that much briefly, this is a stacking passive, meaning that Mornye is likely going to have to either provide off-field healing or some kind of extended duration period of healing in order to fully proc this effect. Otherwise, why are there no other users for this set in the game at the minute, and why is it a stacking passive? There's gonna have to be some prolonged healing time, so while this doesn't really contribute to our overall meta value that much, that is something interesting to see. They seem to be handling a healer in a different way this time. However, that aside, focusing on the more interesting thing, when healing a Resonator on the team, every 1% of off-tune build-up rate grants a 0.2% attack increase to all Resonators in the team. Off-tune build-up rate. So, this was pretty easy and obvious to guess because she is releasing in the same patch as Linny. It's a brand new gimmick. It's pretty obvious what her gameplay loop looks like from the official reveal that Kuro Games dropped. But she is clearly the third slot teammate for Tune Break. This much was obvious, and why is this such a good thing? Well, it's a really good thing for two particular reasons. First of all, even if we take any potential future units out of the equation, we already have Linny. Linny, in of herself, is more than a justifiable reason to justify pulling from Mornye, because you're going to be obtaining an extremely versatile team core. If you thought that Shorekeeper on her own was already mega flexible, imagine getting a team core that is basically Shorekeeper levels of flexible that you can stick onto basically every DPS in the game, barring negative status units, due to their unique team compositions. I have already shilled how good Mornye is, independent of Linny, but one thing that is undeniably going to make her extremely broken going into the future is that basically any DPS is likely going to be able to benefit from both Mornye and Linny in one team. And because she seemingly has something to do with Tune Break, and we know that Linny has things to do with Tune Break, there is a very high chance that Mornye and Linny are going to be absolutely killer together, as in they are going to be absurdly good together. And that's going to really help out your TOA clears, because for your middle tower, you're already going to have one team automatically sorted. As long as it's not a negative status DPS, it literally does not matter who you put in front, you're going to be able to clear. And the thing is, Linny's personal damage already is pretty good, but I expect it to improve even further when we get Mornye. Yeah, even more so than when you use Shorekeeper, because Mornye is likely to end up more well-tuned to what Linny does. We don't know that yet, but based on this healing set, I feel like we can infer that she is going to have something to do with Toon Break, and also if you just put 2 and 2 together, I think it makes sense that they're releasing the Toon Break core. It's pretty clear that Kuro is prioritizing this, and the reason I believe they're prioritizing this is because they broke their otherwise extremely rigid banner scheduling that has been prevalent for like almost 2 years now in order to do this. They usually always release a DPS in a patch, always. The only exception are single 5-star release patches where they do prioritize supports, but usually they do release at least a DPS per patch. But they are prioritizing releasing 2 supports this time, it seems. So even when you completely don't consider the future and you only look at current units that we have released into the game, Linny alone is enough of a reason to invest into Mornye, because the way that is going to give you an already complete team for both Middle Tower and for Whimpering Wastes is absurd. And even in the new endgame, where you would prefer to have more characters, Mornye, at least according to some official news that Kuro put out, has 2 energy charges, much like Shorekeeper and Verena. Linny has 1 energy charge, as we know, so you can still access this broken duo once in that game mode and absolutely demolish, and then still have another use of Mornye afterwards. This character just does not stop getting better. And then, if we include the future, this is where I think the actual sauce is. This is why I think Mornye is genuinely going to become a staple. As it currently stands, she is going to be able to form a broken core with Linny. Absolutely. And even irrespective of that unit, she is going to be really worth your Astrites no matter the situation. However, if we decide to consider the future, I think it is highly likely we are probably going to get a Toon Break DPS. And I will say it again, because I said it before, I don't know how much the future DPSs are going to deal with Toon Break, or if they're even going to deal with it at all. We do have a currently unused Spectro set in the game right now, and unlike the healing set, it does not list anything about Toon Break. So for all I know, I could be completely wrong. And even if I was wrong, Mornye would still very much be a meta staple, but this is what really solidifies it. And I do believe that at some stage we'll probably get a DPS that does have something to do with Toon Break, simply because Kuro seems to really be focusing on this core. But another thing I will add is that it's not unrealistic that they decide not to make a Toon Break DPS and just kind of have everybody universally benefit from these 2 supports, just because of how potentially broken this could end up being. So take this with a grain of salt, and if you're pulling Mornye soon, make sure you're satisfied with what she already does before making that investment. I wouldn't rely on the potential future to make your investment. But the good thing is that we can wait for the official live stream whenever Mornye releases, because she's second half. So if you're on the fence, I would just wait for the live stream, see the next upcoming units, and then you can decide. But what I will add is that she, considering the healing set, is probably easily going to be the best choice for any Toon Break DPS. And considering how strong the Toon Break core is, do you see where I'm going with this? We are going to get an insane DPS team with these 2, I would imagine. Either that, or the DPS is gonna have to be really balanced to make sure they don't absolutely shatter the game into pieces in terms of game balance. Because anytime they make a Toon Break-centric DPS, I believe that Mornye is basically always going to be the best 3rd slot. And because Toon Break can be used by basically every character, I don't think they're ever really going to drop occasionally making Toon Break characters. I do think it's going to be more of a focus in 3.x, but remember how it was in Redecita. We only got complete Erosion and complete Spectral Frazzle. I do expect us to get more negative status teams in the future, but they're far from done with negative statuses, is my point. So, much like negative statuses, I don't expect Kuro Games to be done with Toon Break units after 3.x. So not only is Mornye going to be really good on her release, but the future potential is absolutely insane. Now, there is a reason why I mentioned this last, because this is so subject to change, and if Kuro decides that the future DPSs have nothing to do with Toon Break, well, then this point is just kind of invalid. But the point freaking stands that this character is going to be an absolute staple in the meta, mark my words. This is the type of character that people are going to be waiting for the rerun for just as much as Shorekeeper. Maybe a bit less than Shorekeeper, but around the same amount, I'll say that much. As for the buffs that Mornye herself is going to give, we're just going to have to wait until her official release in order to see what she's going to provide. Right now, we can only really infer that she'll give 25% attack based on the healing set, but otherwise, we don't know. Regardless, this is a very exciting character release. She seems really strong, really strong, and is definitely going to be a staple. Mark my words, if this character ends up being as good as I think she'll end up being, you are going to want to get her if you care about meta. It's the same situation as Shorekeeper, just maybe to a lesser extent, but to a further extent, honestly, if you do care about Toon Break and potential Toon Break investment. If you're on the fence in regards to the whole Toon Break investment thing, here's my advice. Generally speaking, Kuro Games does do their reruns pretty logically, and they'll rerun the character when they become relevant, but the thing is, with a character like Mornye, it seems like she's going to be a generalist. I don't want to say anything until we have official information, but that's what it looks like, especially considering the 2 energy charges thing. So, with that in mind, they're probably not going to rerun her the same way that they would rerun a more niche second slot teammate, so it is probably going to take longer for her rerun. But I would say there is generally no harm in just waiting for the rerun. If you're on the fence and you think that this whole Toon Break investment thing just isn't going to pan out, that is completely justified. Hopefully this video was able to tell you why Mornye is going to be an absolute meta staple and why she is so broken. This has been Juice, signing out, and we do not have much longer left to wait before we can get our hands on her.